Hi, and welcome to the Quick and Dirty Romance Podcasts. We're your hosts. I'm Skye McDonald, author of the Anti-Belle series.
And I'm Sarah Smith, author of Faker. Each episode will dive deep into what it's like to be a contemporary romance author. We'll talk writing inspiration, give you the inside scoop about the publishing world, chat about how we write those infamous sex scenes, and more. And then we'll pull out and wrap it up in 30 minutes or less, but we promise to leave you satisfied.
So today's episode is going to be about writing male characters in romance novels. Specifically, why women romance writers seem to do this so well, which is interesting because so often we see examples of male writers doing a spectacularly terrible job of writing women. Now, admittedly, this is not always true. There are many great writers who can write all types of people, but in the romance genre, it's very important that we have that balance and we're able to make a very believable and yet very ideal man. So we're going to get into this topic, and once we do, we are really going to do a call for you to let us know examples of men in books that you have loved, or ways in which you think men or women get this type of gender switch right or wrong. So please feel free to reach out to us once you've listened to the podcast. So why do we nail male characters, for lack of a better term?
No, I could not think of a better way to phrase that because I think that's pretty spot on. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I'm sure there's like a more, or maybe there's not like a complicated answer to it. I just feel like on the whole, I think female writers are just more thoughtful about their writing, honestly. And maybe that's going to get me a lot of negative comments, but I don't really care because I honestly think that that's true. And maybe, I guess for me, like when I write a male character, it's not really like a secret formula or anything like that. I honestly just think about like what qualities are attractive to me in a man in real life, and I write it down. And it's really like not any more complicated than that. Like, and the qualities that I think are attractive aren't really anything that special. It's just qualities that I think every partner should have, like kindness and honesty, integrity, hardworking, the ability to say that they're sorry, like somebody who's not afraid to like dote on their lady, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you do? Or how do you write your guys? Because you write some really good guys, Skye. I love your guys.
Well, thank you. So yeah, my guys, so in the series, they're all quite different, but like you just said, they all share, like, I would say the basic building blocks of it, what I consider a decent human being, being like, you're not an absolute douche. But at the same time, too, there's something to that, because like I'm kind of laughing as I'm saying that, you know, but
right.
It's not always that easy, especially if you're going to write something like an alpha male, which I don't do, to be clear. But it's very easy, I think, no matter what your gender is as a writer, to fall into a two-dimensional trap. And I think the idea of like what is sexy needs to be answered in layers if you're going to really get to the heart of a character and make a character come alive for you. Because I don't think that you can just assume that these are the ideals and that's the place you work from if you don't have, like, I think a layered set of them. So like you said, like you want them to have integrity, you want them to be kind, but if their natural nature is withdrawn or arrogant, you have to get to the heart of why. And if you can't get to the heart of why, then you've written a character that comes across as very one-dimensional. And I think on the opposite side of that, when men try to write women and assume a lot about them, or don't really think about their motivations and how they would, like, by nature and design, be different, I think that that's where that can really fall short.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a really good point that you pointed out, because I do think, like the way that you explain like the layering and going deeper in their character, you're so right, because when you don't do that, it comes off very one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. And then you just essentially just have like a hot guy with abs who just like is there for the various plot points, you know what I mean? And it doesn't like feel genuine.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. But I think that's too where no, like I said, like on either side of the gender line. And of course, I guess let's take a pause and make a caveat here, which is, of course, we are talking about a binary gender system,
Yeah,
which we don't live in. And so, for all due respect to trans characters and trans writers, that's just simply like we're talking about the idea of flipping to the other POV in from a cisgendered perspective, which initially or immediately puts us in a certain category. So all due respect to the spectrum, just that this is the focal point right here.
Right. Yeah.
So, but all that said, yeah, I think that if you have the desire to understand as opposed to the approach that you do understand, that you're going to get a lot more of an interesting character.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about like physical attributes, I guess? Like when it comes to male characters, not to get shallow, but like obviously it's romance and romance is fantasy, so there's always going to be an element of physical attraction, So I guess how do you decide how physically descriptive you get with your heroes?
That's a great question, because I always work between the line of wanting people to imagine what they want to imagine and wanting to tell you what I see. So there's a lot that I'll leave to the imagination. For example, I would never say like, oh, his penis was this many inches long and this type of like shape. And it's like, no, I'm not doing the curvature, guys. I'm not doing that. But at the same time, too, I want you to imagine what you want. And that goes back to the whole, I mean, we could loop that back to the idea of what a book cover should look like. But I do have an idea. And what my idea is that the guy in the novel is what you want to see. And
Right.
so, yeah, they are going to work out. But one of the things that I do in all of my characters for women and men, generally they're into fitness in some way or form, because I don't like the idea of just like, oh, well, you're just blessed with six-pack abs. It's like, no, you're going to have to work for that. So I usually build that type of thing in. But I also build fitness into my books as like a lifestyle. And I do that simply as a mirror of my own life, because my journey and like my body issues that I have had over the years, which I'll admit to, I have come to a place where I enjoy working out. Like I like it. I feel better when I do it. And it's not a shame to anyone who doesn't do those things. It's simply that that's my perspective. So that's a thing I'm going to write in.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that that's completely, I love that. I like that you're, excuse me. I like that you're taking like your own experience and adding that to how you develop a character. Because honestly, I just think that shows how thoughtful you're being and creating your characters. And I feel like that thoughtfulness is really important, because when you don't exercise that foresight or even that thought, then you end up with a bunch of characters who don't seem genuine or real at all.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what about you though?
I mean, okay, so I think it's okay. Just like you, I think it's okay to write about a male character who's physically attractive in whatever way you find that to be. So like, does that mean abs? Does that mean like super cut adonis belt? Like whatever that means, that's okay, because again, like romance is fantasy, and it's okay to find the characters attractive as long as you're being sensitive and respectful, obviously, when you're depicting it. Like, and I think as long as you make their physical description part of who they are, they're not just, like a one-dimensional hero with a six-pack abs. Like, it's just part of who they are as a person, and you're exploring their emotions and thoughts. That's totally fine. Because honestly, like in real life, I feel like, in real life, we don't always get to be around all these hotties, and it's okay. That's fine. But in your book, in your writing, it's okay to like fantasize about that a little bit. I think that's perfectly fine.
I agree. I just think it's very important for me to have the characters, no matter what character I write, for them to be believable, for them to be somebody you could feel like you could know.
Right.
Which is why I generally don't write alpha males, because I don't feel like they're people that I know, and so they don't they don't like translate for me.
Right.
Um, so
Yeah.
like I always like it when people say like I feel like I know these people. I feel like these characters they felt real to me. I wanted to talk to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's always really like that's a big thing for me. I think it's very important.
Yeah. And
Um,
sorry, you also, you go out of your way to like seek out like male beta readers
mhm.
when you, for, the books that you write to make sure that what you are depicting in your characters sounds authentic and genuine. And that's a really important step too.
Yeah, because especially I think because I write dual POV. So my guys have to speak and they not just speak but narrate. And so it's very like I really want it to feel even though, our readership is predominantly women, I want everyone to read my books. And
Right.
so I want people to read it and feel inside the character's mind in a very authentic way. So it is important to me and it means a lot to me if a man can really it says like, "Oh, you did this well." And
Yeah.
I did have obviously a male beta reader on, especially on Off the Record. That I definitely had a male beta reader for. And then I've had male readers, and I had one of my friends read, I guess Twitter friends read Not Suitable for Work, and he also said he was like, I was just really swept up into the story. I mean, it was hot, but it
Oh,
was also like really believable, and so that always means a lot. And then, of course, my 80-year-old uncle, who I've shouted out before, he liked the story too. No, but like just to be able to have people say, I feel like I know these characters is really a big goal for me. So yeah, I think it's great, and I like the feedback that helps me get closer to that.
yeah, I think I agree. Like that's like the best compliment when they're like, oh, I felt like I was, talking to a
Hmm.
real person. That's like the greatest.
Yeah, yeah. And like you were saying about like the idea of this being the fantasy and we can idealize, but at the same time too, like I don't like the idea that our books are one dimensional or like lady porn, which
No,
ladies watch porn, so
sure.
let's move past that right now. It's
Right.
okay. B, they're not porn, and there is written porn. Like there are, plenty of different types of erotica reads that are meant specifically to be the written equivalent of pornography. Cool, cool, cool. I'm in it for you. Like that, do it. Like whatever you enjoy. But a romance novel is meant to be a novel. And so,
Right.
like, the idea of delegitimizing it by saying, oh, well, it's just porn or mommy porn, please don't get me started on that term. But like it's not. You want the characters to be developed. You want them to be authentic and you want to go on their journey and fall in love with them. It is a fantasy. It's not the same as porn. So I would like that on record.
New York City life,
Hmm. Absolutely.
I,
Um, wow.
I,
I live in Brooklyn, y'all.
oh my
Mm.
gosh, sorry, that's so funny. Because I live like in the suburbs and that never happens where I
Yeah. Yeah,
live.
woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning the other day.
Oh,
Thanks.
so annoying.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I completely agree with you. And I do get really, really irritated when people, every once in a while you'll see, or I guess I'll see, maybe not everybody sees this, but you'll see like somebody equating porn to romance novels. And I just obviously have a problem with that because like you said, there are different types of romance, different types of like for just depending on what you want. But also, I feel like historically a lot of porn has been really degrading and
Hmm.
disrespectful to women, and it can set some really dangerous and unrealistic expectations when it comes to relationships and sex. And I feel like I just get really pissed off when people start just equating the two because I feel like romance novels, in my opinion, set a really healthy and realistic expectation of what a relationship and having a male partner should be like. So, like, a male partner should be, or not just male partner, but like because you and I write male female romance, that's how it applies in this particular instance. But like, you want a partner who's going to value you, who listens to you, who respects your boundaries, who offers the emotional support that you deserve and want, and knows, how to say sorry when they screw up, and who prioritizes your pleasure in the bedroom. And all of that, in my opinion, is super positive. And if anybody thinks that those are like unrealistic expectations, I think that's really sad because those are not unrealistic at all. I think they're totally reasonable and completely realistic in a way that like bad porn obviously is not.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think we set an ideal on sex. And, actually, I'm going to bring in Margaret Atwood, one of my favorite writers. Of course, she's the author of The Handmaid's Tale. But she was speaking about how porn, and this was an interview a long time ago, but porn and romance, like 50 Shades, they're both to the same point, which is escapist fantasy. To my point, I think our problem is when we forget that that's escapist fantasy. And when we expect, and so it's a kind of funny thing because I'm sitting here saying like, oh, I want them to be realistic. I want them to be people you can know. But I also want people to approach them with the mindset that it's supposed to be fun. Yeah. So like, I want you to buy into the fun. I want you to buy into the story. But I don't want you to think like, okay, my dude needs to have a 6-pack or else it's not okay. Because, I mean, we could get into body shaming for men, which is certainly as real of a thing. And so like this idea of like, this is the fantasy, this is the fun, this is the love. And when, to me, when you fall in love with somebody, all the physicality, all the ideals, like there's a golden stardust around you anyway. And so what I really want to capture is like the authenticity of what it feels like to fall in love with somebody. And that it's like all these building blocks are really meant to take you into the joy of losing yourself in pleasure and love. But I do think you have to be realistic about the characters in order to feel that authentically.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons people can read, like, and I don't know the stat, I don't have it in front of me, but romance is the most voraciously read genre. And it's not because they're trash books. They're not. It's because you can get swept into a love story. And I think people just want to feel that joy. Falling in love is a very special thing. It's not a thing that most people do over and over and over again in their life. And if you do, good for you. But a lot of people, it's pretty traditional that once you do it, you're going to partner with that person at least for a while. And so the joy and the escape of like investing in the beauty of like just the thrill of falling in love, I think is just so, that's why I write it. And yeah, I just think it's really like, you just have to be authentic about it in order to get people to really have that experience. And since I want them to have that experience, I want my dudes to be authentic.
Yes. Yeah, I 100% am right there with you.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah.
So when we talk about all this, there are some epically good and epically bad examples of writing in the other gender and the other voice. Do you have a favorite male romance character?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have like a million. Yeah. And it just would like tear me up to like pick the best one, obviously, because they're so good. There's so many romance writers who I think write just totally swoon-worthy, well-rounded book boyfriends, male romance characters, whatever you want to call them. But one that I read recently that I really, really liked was it's a Wattpad romance series by Jessie Stewart, and it's called Take a Bite Cafe. And it's about 2 cafe workers in England named Meg and Jimmy. And it's a contemporary romance, and it's really sweet. It's just this like adorable workplace romance, and they're not open about their relationship at first because Meg has had some negative experiences in her love life, and she just doesn't want everybody knowing her business, which is totally understandable. And Jimmy is just like the sweetest. Like, he's kind and he's sweet and respectful of her needs and desires, and he like completely understands her issues with how she wants to present the relationship and how like quickly she wants to move things along and how she wants to take things at her own pace. And obviously like this should go without saying, but like it's sad that we always have to like talk about things like consent and boundaries in real life and also in like romance. But Jimmy is also really like very, very respectful about like consent and boundaries, and like he's not sending her pictures of his dick all the time, you know. He's just a really just like you could totally picture him as this like real sweet, genuinely like appealing guy, but like he just yeah, just like really, really sweet. And I wish there were like a million Jimmys in this world, because this world would be a better place if that were the case. But yeah, who are some male characters that you have read that you like?
So I'm going to name one because like you, it's very hard to like, once I get started, that's a rabbit hole and we've promised to pull out. So I'm going to name Lucy Parker as she's one of my favorite writers, but she has the London Celebrity series. And in her first book, she has this character named Richard Troy. And so I have a thing for guys who come off as like bristly and gruff or like super like why him? No, not him. Because actually underneath they're like pining. And there's a lot going on, which is why I have a thing for Tate and Faker. But yeah, and actually that's going to play out in book 3 of mine as well, in Nemesis. But I do have a real thing for those kind of guys, and I think that in Act Like It, Lucy Parker really nails the like dude with too much attitude, but underneath, like even as he's like flexing all this attitude and doing all these things, almost immediately, like, the first time you meet him, you're like, wow, yeah, he's a douche. But then immediately, as you get into the story, you're like, oh no, he's not a douche. He's got a lot going on. And then you see him interacting with the love interest, and you're like, and you just see through the prickly stuff before Lainey does. And like, I just love that kind of guy because I understand them. I mean, that sounds super like condescending. It's not. It's just like, I know people like that. I have known people like that, and I love it because it's just like there's so much more going on underneath. And so I think she wrote that really well. So that's one of my faves. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. He sounds great.
Yeah, but he's not. But
right.
he is. But he's not. But he is. Like Tate.
Right.
Like my guy Will, who's going to come out at you in Nemesis. Like, he's not great, but he's so great. You know, it's like, I love that thing.
I think the fact that I wrote a character like Tate and Faker makes it obvious that I would like a character like that. So yeah,
totally. Exactly.
Totally.
And see, like, so far my dudes aren't like that. Like Ben, just like everybody's in love with him, and you know. And Nick is fun. Nick is funny. He's a hipster. You like the glasses thing. Hello, Lily, because I know Lily loves my Nick. Like, they're very not that. So when you get to book 3 for me, you're gonna like, that's my take on it. But I do, in real life, personally, I'm just not ashamed to admit, I do have a thing for that type of personality, because I think once you get through that sort of bristly thing, you're getting something that's not everybody can see, and that makes it even better.
Yeah.
Well, what else? Oh, yeah. So we haven't talked much about the whole fact that, like, the other side of the coin, which is when, like character writing fails. But, Sarah, I know you know this Twitter handle, so.
Yeah. So, and this is just, like, if you ever want to laugh or just, like, I guess, get really pissed off at how bad writing women can be, there's a Twitter account called, it's @men_write_women. And it's just like examples of how men have written women in books and stories terribly, especially when it comes to like sex and physical descriptions of women and what is pleasurable to women during sex. So yeah, do yourself a favor and go visit that Twitter account at some point and just like, familiarize yourself with how bad it can be.
I'm going to give you a taste, because I remember you talking about this when we were setting up and getting the idea for this. Wasn't there something about like hitting her cervix?
Oh my God. Yeah. I just like horrible. And like, what? Obviously that's a man who is not, I don't know, like, has he not had sex with a woman? Like, I don't understand like how, and okay, there are 7 billion people in the world. Maybe I'm sure there are people who find that great. But the vast majority, I would venture to say, does not find that pleasurable. So
I'm going to say right now, that makes me clench my thighs together, and not in the good way.
Me too. It's just, yeah. So it's stuff along those lines. So just get ready and yeah. Yeah.
Get ready to cringe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're putting out a call. We want you to tell us about some romance characters that you love, the books they're from, the authors that you think really nail those guys. And we would like for you to do it via DM or email. You can find me, actually, you can find us on Twitter at Quick and Dirty Rom and on Instagram at Quick and Dirty Romance. And we would love to hear from you so we can shout out those authors, tag them, and give them a little bit of a boost. So that would be like a huge gift to any author that you love. So please reach out to us and let us know, and we will share the love. But for the meantime, that was good for me. Was it good for you, Sarah?
Hell yeah, it was good for me, Skye.
Good. That was episode 4 of the Quick and Dirty Romance podcast. Like I said, feel free to reach out to us. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at writer Skye McD.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram as well. I am at author Sarah S. And once again, please check out our books. They are Not Suitable for Work and Off the Record by Skye McDonald and Faker by Sarah Smith.
So thank you so much for listening. As we close out today, I want to give you a new quote from the Queen herself, because it is her birthday today, Miss Dolly Parton. Her quote that I'd like to leave you with today is, "Find out who you are and do it on purpose." Bye, guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye.